MGTOW. MGTOW. That's a dead end, all right? MGTOW is a dead end, and I'll explain exactly why it's a dead end. It is a dead end because it's a dead end because the same way being a monk is a dead end. Being a monk is going away from humanity. You see, I'm talking about asceticism and minimalism, but you shouldn't go so far that you remove everything in life, almost everything. You still want to be within culture or create your own culture even better. That is what I'm trying to do here. We're trying to build a better culture here, whereby you keep your humanity intact and you develop your humanity, but you remove the unnecessary things. But MGTOW, the reason why it's a dead end is that, well, the first is, of course, you're leaving, a part of humanity. You're leaving a part of your human nature. And that is precisely what you don't want to do. And so you're frustrated, and I understand that. You're frustrated, but the reason why you're frustrated is not that you can't find a woman, for example. It is within your own nature to find a woman. It is unnatural to become a monk. It's unnatural. It is not even desirable. There are so many great things about women, all right? So you can't deny this. And without a woman, you wouldn't exist, so. So, the thing is that the same way and a lot of you some of you are religious, I think, and some of you are not religious, but I can speak to both, all right? It's the same thing. If you're religious, so let's say, all right, so men going their own way, all right? So you live for yourself only. So what's the point of that, all right? What's the point of just living for yourself? That is essentially what you're trying to do here. So if God created you, why would he create you and you just playing video games or do even of course creating things? That would be something different, because then you're giving meaning to people. If you're a musician and you're just focusing on your music, then in some sense that is a meaningful life, all right? Even without women, with women, doesn't matter, or a woman without a man, and so forth. So it's the both spectrum here but you cannot ever have a complete life. You can't ever experience the complete human condition. Now, but it's better to be prepared, of course. It's better to develop yourself and then you create, for example, a family and so forth. Because as you can see, most people are terrible parents. They can't even parent themselves, and they're trying to parent a child. So they haven't even tamed their own inner child. They haven't even, parented their own inner child before they try to parent a true child. So you see, I understand why, and you have a lot of fear, and you're observing all of this, and you see all these problems, and you realize, why do I need women? I can just live for myself, and I don't need anything else. Well, you do need something else, because we're social creatures. Now, of course, you can have friends and so forth and never have a girlfriend, but you're always denying your sexual part of you. We're sexual creatures. Nature created the sexuality is not it's not a, I know how you detest feminists. And sexuality is it's not a construct. Of course it's not a construct. Without sexuality, we can't create human beings. So of course it's also ideas, but the concept of sexuality, some form of sex, is happening, obviously. Otherwise survival wouldn't be, we wouldn't have sex, and we wouldn't have children, and we wouldn't continue the species. Now, the thing is, though, of course, you can live for yourself and so forth, but what's the point of that? Why did God create you for that? just for nothing, just to waste your life away, even if you develop yourself, even if you train. All right, this is what I realized when I was training. So this is how I realized the deeper, many-layered purposes of life. And life, you know, God created you so that you just play video games or just read books or just watch movies, and you train and you develop yourself, but you're still not developing yourself because you haven't faced any other fears. The only fear, even if you're training, let's say, then you've only faced that fear. You haven't faced the social, you haven't faced more, you know, more hardship. You haven't faced anything because you're going within yourself, you're starting to hate yourself. It's part of the preservation nature, but in some sense it's getting inverted. And imagine a monk. So you're a monk. If you're a MGTOW, you're basically a monk, and yet you're not, because you're not as disciplined. You're like terrible monks. MGTOWs are terrible monks. They're not even disciplined. So at least a monk has a worldview and has a purpose in living. So let's say a Western monk, a Christian monk. So at the very least, he believes in a God and he has that purpose. But that is also a waste of life. But even worse for you, because at least he has God. But what do you have? You have nothing. You have a computer. You have nothing. So at least he has, well, of course he has nothing as well, but he doesn't believe he has nothing. But you don't even believe, so that's the atheist there. You don't even believe, even if you're a believer, you can't truly believe in that God, because if you're just watching that monitor or, you know, screen, whatever screen it is, then you're just wasting, you're not behaving according to your belief. You're just wasting your life, you know, you're just consuming, you're just collecting. So in a sense, that is preservation, you see. But at the very least, the monk has discipline. He has, you know, he fasts, he develops himself in some sense. It's a lot of inner there. But you're neither inner nor outer. You're a lot of inner actually, but you're just torturing yourself by just consuming all the time. So that's why I always speak of you gotta become a creator. You gotta become a creator to satisfy your soul, so to speak, to satisfy yourself. Now, I can also speak to you if you're an atheist, all right? So, but this is even worse, all right? You don't believe in a God, so so you only have this attempt at life. So why are you wasting it away like that? You're not creating any meaning. You're not even creating any meaning for yourself. But even if you create meaning for yourself, let's say you start training, start diet and all that. That is great. That's the first purpose. That is great. And that goes for the MGTOW. That goes for the believing MGTOW as well. But you gotta realize that MGTOW, it's a dead end, because look, even if you just work for yourself, let's say you train, you diet, you get your sleep right, you get all of the things right. But if you're partying, you're still destroying yourself within yourself, your inflammation and so forth. So in some sense, you know, you will hit a wall. I already done this, but I never believed in MGTOW. But because I understand that human nature is man and woman as well. You can't separate the two. The same way you can't separate the yin and yang. It is both. The same way a wave particle, it's a wave particle. It's not a wave, it's not a particle, it's a wave particle. All right? So it's the same for us. Men are particles and women are waves. So space-time, you can separate space and time. All right? So the thing is that, and men are space and women are time. So the thing is that, so if you're an unbeliever, if you're an atheist, so you're just wasting your time on that. And even if you're training, you're just training for yourself, and then what? What's the meaning you've created? What have you given? So either you have to share this, share your skills, share your knowledge. So in some sense, you share your ideas, and then you're giving some meaning. That is meaning in life. And to be human, you gotta be human, or at least a sentient being, to understand that there is meaning of life. And if you're an atheist and you say there is no meaning of life, then why haven't you ended life? That is because you haven't ended life because within yourself you understand that you have a life bias because you are life. So of course you have a life bias. You want to live because you are life. You know, nature created you this way so that this survival of the species. And so you're going against that, and it's very hard, you know, to end life. So, and you're going against this, and that's why I also believe that monks go against life. That is why I'm against all this blind faith and all of these things. But I can even put myself in this blind faith thing. And even then, they're actually wasting their life as well. So even a Buddhist, even if it's not God in some sense, they still believe in a God in some sense because they always believe in the perfect enlightenment, Buddha enlightenment. And that is also an illusion. But it's one of the worst illusions, or it is the worst illusion. It's the phantom of the, you know, it's the bane of humanity actually. Because we're trying to achieve something that we know is truly impossible. Even though you feel you've experienced God and all of that, it doesn't matter. It's still reaching for the impossible. You're still trying to reach God. Even if He exists or don't exist, it doesn't matter. You're still reaching for the impossible. And we want to be in reality. And we want to change things in reality. And do things that work and give results. Well, those are connected, obviously, because if things are working, then you understand that. If you're seeing results, then you understand that, all right, this is working. If you're doing some calisthenics, you grow some muscles, you understand, all right, this works. Push-ups work, pull-ups work, squats work, pulling up weights, heavy weights works. Running works. You know, so, but of course, some stuff doesn't work as well. Sit-ups. They're pretty useless, but you can do leg raises, for example. That is great for core. So you see, there are some myths and stuff like that to filter and so forth, but that's why I'm here. So, but you gotta understand that MGTOW, it is not the answer. The same way being a monk is not the answer. The same way. So these are like digital monks. I mean, MGTOW, you're like a digital monk, but you're not as disciplined. You're just all these lower desires, all these, you know, dopamine hits from video games, but also, and by the way, I've played video games myself. I've been in World of Warcraft. I was on Earthen Ring. I can prove this to you, like by the very fact I'm speaking like this. Or even Doomer guys, Doom. I've played Doom, all right? Doom 3, you know, all these demons coming down from the ceiling and, you know, all over the place. I played Wolfenstein 3D. I was brought up with Wolfenstein 3D. My father played a lot of Wolfenstein 3D, all right? Hip hop pop, I'm you know, I know all those stupid sounds. I'm not sure what it says, but you know, of these cops, the blue cops, you know, but then you have Hitler, of course, the boss. I think Hitler is the last boss. You know, you're killing Nazis. But you see, I come from this. I watched Tarkovsky, I watched, you know, depressing movies by Ingmar Bergman as well from the 60s. And they're still great. I understand they're still great. Or in games, you have Ico. You have you have Shadow of the Colossus. You have stuff like that. That is more artistic. But this melancholia, this depression, I don't care who you are. You're all the same to me. MGTOW, pessimists, all of you, all of this, you know, cesspool of, not just, I don't want to say negativity, all right? Because we need negativity. You can't just have positivity, negativity, neutrality. You gotta have both, or all of them. And you gotta have detachment, but still not detachment, all right? We got both. So you see, Buddha is right and he's wrong. You gotta have some detachment, but then you don't wanna have too much detachment because you still wanna be within humanity, advance humanity. That's the whole point here. Otherwise, it is meaningless. Otherwise, we might as well end life, all right? We might as well end life. But I understood that ending life is not the answer, but I understand it more than just accepting who you are, accepting this, accepting that, take your responsibility. I understand that saying taking your responsibility doesn't work. I understand this because it didn't work for me. It doesn't work because truth is experience, so you gotta experience stuff. So you gotta work on yourself first. So training and all that, diet, all that is great. But then you will hit a wall. You will hit a wall, and you will just ask yourself, why am I training? What's the purpose of just training like this? So if you're an atheist, you will go, yeah, everything is meaningless. But you can also go, I'm an atheist and everything is meaningless, and I move on with my life, and you don't think of it too much. But then some of us, we think of it all life, and that's why I'm one of those. But then you have believers, and then usually they still, and yet they also always have a purpose in some sense because they have this drive. So this is that's why this is exactly what's been pulled from atheists. But that's why I'm bringing that back for atheists, all right? But not just for atheists. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be a believer as well, and my philosophy will work still. Because we move from subjectivity, all right? I think Kant was like that, you know? He brought philosophy back, you know? They were just observing reality and so forth. But everything we're observing in reality is, you all know this, it is all hallucinated by the brain. It's all a simulation for the brain. It doesn't mean that it's meaningless, because as long as you're alive, this is not meaningless for you. It is only meaningless from the objective, but you are not the objective reality. You are not nature. You are not nature. You're human. Stop trying to be nature. So you see, that's why Buddha is wrong and all these monks are wrong. You're not nature. Don't be according to nature. Be according to your nature. Not like the Stoics, be according to nature. Like a nihilist or well, all of you. You're all of this. All of you are this. So this is useless. To be a nihilist, pessimist, and complain or not complain, and still, even if you have a deeper philosophy like Schopenhauer and a deeper, more philosophical background for it, or a ground for it, it's still useless because life is about health. So you solve pessimism by solving health. You solve everything by solving health. If you solve health, then you've solved everything. You see? And you gotta, so thus, that's why I speak of truth with experience. I know that many of you like Jordan Peterson, but none of you truly listen to what he's saying. I have a fly here. All right, so life has begun. Summer is approaching. All right, so Jordan Peterson, he has a point with truth, actually. I have a lot of criticism there because truth is still not the way he thinks it is, but it's not the same way, it's not the way Sam Harris thinks either, because they're not truly honest, all right? They're not truly honest because we know from physics that, truth changes with time, with space-time. So, and we know this because, we know that for just one example, we'll break it up, for example, light constant. The light constant, it's not the same in the beginning of the universe, in the middle of the universe, and at its death. So yeah, of course, everything will die and blah, blah, Yes, all of that is true. And it still doesn't mean that your life is meaningless. Because the very fact that you are alive and living means that this is the only space in which meaning can exist. So death is meaningless. especially if you're an atheist, all right? If you're not an atheist, death is not meaningless. You're getting to God or something like that, whatever it is, you reach something. So in some sense, actually, you do that, because for me, God is death, and nothingness is perfection. Nothingness is perfection. You become one with nothingness once you die. But that's why we're not seeking death. We're seeking imperfection in some sense. That's why I love the way Nietzsche said. He said something like, if something is perfect, if you see something perfect, it should be destroyed. It has to be destroyed. In some sense, that is true. Now, I'm not saying we should destroy beautiful things. I'm not saying we should literally destroy it like that. What we think is beautiful. He means this in a metaphorical manner, in that an old man, let's say an old man or a man, doesn't matter who it is actually. We have two men, all right? Or two women, actually it doesn't matter. Two human beings. One is always secluded. He hasn't, he's, well, basically the modern man. He's basically the modern man, the modern human, sitting within, always introvert, but not necessarily an introvert by nature. All of you can't be naturally introvert, all right? That is impossible. And also I can pull you out, because I've been both. Well, I'm born non-introvert, but I understand how draining, being social is, and then you have to recover, but also, you want to remove everyone because they're just exhausting. I understand all of these things, all of them. But the way is not, you gotta find respect for yourself, and then others will respect your time. Because now, I'm working, all right? You use your time for your work, for your legacy, for building yourself. Those, mind, body, technically just body and your legacy. Technically you only have two things in life, only two things. But if you're constantly playing games and always consuming and never creating anything, you have no legacy to create. So you create no meaning. I don't care if you believe in something or don't believe in something. And it's still the truth. That's still the truth. And if you like Peterson, for example, why don't you listen to him and take some action and clean your room? I did that today. I've cleaned everything, all the rooms, all right? Clean all of them. And in all the areas and all the pockets and behind and beneath and under things and over and everywhere. And then you create an aesthetic environment. You're cleaning up your environment. But then you gotta clean up your mind as well. You gotta clean up your body as well. You clean up your body by eating correctly. You gotta fast as well. You see, Peterson doesn't understand fasting. At least from what I've heard, he doesn't understand this. So some of you believe he's a Christian and some of you don't believe he's a Christian, but a true Christian would fast. Jesus fasted. And Muhammad fasted. All the Sufis fasted. All yogis fast. In Hinduism, in Buddhism, Buddhists fast, or true Buddhists fast. All religions have fasting. And even if you're not religious, all the greats fast, all right? Actually, not all the greats fast, but they should. They would have been better. All the greats, imagine if all the greats fasted as well. Now that would be incredible. That would be incredible. So you see, that's the culture I want to create here. But I want to create polymaths as well. I want you to be interested in everything. You should be interested in all sorts of things. You should develop yourself in all areas of life. So you see, it's many factors, but it's also aesthetic because it's many factors, but you remove the noise. You don't need the noise. The background noise there, you just remove that. And you remove that by starting respecting your own time on earth and developing yourself on earth. That's the true meaning in life, experiencing and developing and the evolution of man. That's in Sufism. That's in Sufism. I really like Sufism. the mystics in Islam, actually. So in some sense, you know, I think I feel most closely to them in some sense. But at the same time, not, because I'm not here to create I don't want a cult thing. It's not supposed to be cultish. It's supposed to be culture, not cult. The same way, that's why I always return to the ancient Spartans. You see that non-mediocrity, that greatness from the ancient Spartans, but imagine that in the now. And we don't need to fight other countries, but imagine if we created something in real life as well, but we still don't deny human nature, you see, and part of human nature is technology, so we don't just abandon all technology either. We use the technology for our advantage. That's what we have done all the time. That's the reason why we developed technology. But you will hit a wall. Even if you train yourself and work on yourself, you will hit this wall, and you will ask yourself, why am I even exercising? What for? Why am I doing this? Am I just living for myself? Just eating, training, sleeping, working, you know? But if you're working on it depends on what you're working on. You gotta work with, I know it's cliche, but when they say you gotta work with your passion, you gotta work with your passion, all right? You gotta work with whatever your talent is. And this talent has to be passionate as well. And you can have multiple, but at the very least, start with one. And also, you should also start a business out of it so that you're satisfied in life. You gotta be satisfied in life. So that's why owning yourself, you gotta own yourself. You can't have a boss. I don't believe in boss. I'm basically creating leaders here. I wanna create leaders here. I'm creating people in my own image, actually, in some sense. And so the whole point is leadership. If you're a man, obviously some women as well, but you know, it would be great if all the women could be like Spartan women and all men like Spartan men. But in the modern era, without swords, we don't need swords. Actually, if we created a country that had this new culture, if we created this, and you know, we gotta be the most modern in terms of technology, because otherwise you will fail. That's how the Ottoman Empire, they always were great in some sense, because they always adapted to the newest technology all the time. So, and it's still true, it will always be true. Those who adapt best and first, but not just first, usually, yeah, of course, those are early on, early on adapters will get ahead of other people. You can see this with YouTube. You can see this with anything. But still, it's still true that when a medium start to exist, it will never die either. You see this with theater. You see this with poems. You see this with, you know, philosophy has been around for thousands of years, and we still have philosophers, and it's still not useless. As you can see, we can still create new things. I'm creating new things here. And yeah, I'm mixing things. So something new comes out of the mix. That is precisely what's happening all the time. Beautiful is that which has scars, all right? The beautiful is not that which is undeveloped, you know? That is not beautiful. A man that is full of fear of everything, you know, hypochondriac, nihilist, pessimist, you know, hates everyone, hates himself, hates everything, hates, you know, not just hates, but he has mood swings, melancholia, you know. I was this, so you can see my about page. That is, I'm basically describing that. So, and there is a way out of this, because I'm here. I'm here. There is a way out of this because I'm here. I can show you the way, because if you just apply what I'm saying, all my philosophy. Actually, if you watch all my philosophy lectures, that's it. That's all you need, actually. You don't need much else. I will create a book out of that, and I will create more things out of this, but it doesn't matter. Everything is out there now, so this means that I've actually, in my, people haven't reached it yet, not thoroughly. Some of you have, which is fun. I mean, it's not just fun, but it gives me deep joy. It gives me a lot of joy. But I also wish this, I want you to have results. Ultimately, I want you to have results. I want you to stop hating women. I want you to stop hating yourself first. And I want you to stop all of that, because that is not helping humanity. You're actually hindering humanity. The same way, I know you hate feminists, for example, MGTOWs, you hate feminists, extreme feminists and so forth. Now, of course, I understand I've gone through I've actually read postmodernism before it was a modern new thing here. And I'm not just saying I was in there before of everything. It's just that I noticed all of this in universe. I've already, talked to people like that, gender studies people. I've discussed with those people, and this was when I was even less experienced in some, in life. So, but still, I always read philosophy and so forth, and I always broke worldviews. So that's why I can't buy their stuff. That's why I don't buy any philosophy. The only philosophy I can buy is my own, because of how deep I went within myself, and I just broke everything down to the very essence of things, like death and life, and existence and non-existence, and meaning and non-meaning, and so forth, or opposite. So you see, there is only meaning in life, and there is only non-meaning in death. But you can't understand, you gotta, you see, that's why truth is experience, because you gotta experience some stuff to understand this. You can read about it, you can listen to me here, you can read all philosophy, but I actually didn't I read all of philosophy, and still I didn't find my answer, because I had to experience my answer. You see? So the same with, but if you just start working on yourself, building your character, again, you can see that as a game there. As long as you build your character, improve yourself, face all of your fears, and become a bit more manly, and then women become more womanly, but still, we still want women that are, you don't want to have two, you want to have strong women, all right, and strong men. You want to have strong women and strong men, not the cliche strong woman. You want the strong woman and the strong man. Actually, sharp. You want sharp women, and you want sharp men. And that is how I will avoid the cliche. It is sharpness we're seeking. Not just sharpness, but especially in women. I love women that are sharp. It is pointless to just waste your life away. It doesn't matter if you're a believer or not. But I can understand you from both perspectives, and still you're unsatisfied in life. And you're unsatisfied in life for a very good reason, all right? But the reason, you can't just blame others. So you see, you love Peterson, but why aren't you listening to his words of when he speaks of responsibility then? Now I understand why you're not listening to responsibility stuff, because you always have your lower desires. I'm gonna avoid saying that you're lazy as well, because ultimately we're all lazy, because atoms are lazy, all right? We know this from physics. So atoms and energy always want to be in the ground state, not in the excited state. But that's the thing. We're conscious here, so you gotta just keep on pulling yourself up and make yourself in the excited state. That's the whole point here. So that's the whole purpose of the philosophy itself, to push yourself, to help you to guide you upwards for that. That's the purpose of the philosophy. So, but there are many purposes here. I have a purpose in expression here. I have a purpose in what I'm doing here. You know, there's always a deeper, well, the deepest purpose is survival, of course. So, but it doesn't matter what I'm doing, it's always the deepest purpose is always survival. And if I'm denying this, then I might as well end it. So that is what I realized, especially from Camus as well. You have those two things there, you know. So, life or death. So, I hope I cleared, well, not just cleared, I hope I truly delved into why you shouldn't even be a MGTOW or a monk or a nun, or you shouldn't, or a feminist, you know, shut in, you know, you shouldn't be isolated. We are social creatures. You're going against your own nature by doing this. And you're just torturing yourself. You're going within yourself, within, deeper and deeper. And that is just keep torturing yourself, your core. That's the wrong way. You're going the opposite way. You should go outwards. Core, still core, of course, because we're always going from the subjective, but you got to go outwards. That's the only way. So that's why I'm a big believer in change and action and change and taking steps. It's very simple. I mean, it's very simple. And there are examples that will never lie. For example, you know, you can talk about many things, but weight loss and, you know, training and all of that, or diet, these things don't lie. So and the other thing is, of course, so you have this pessimistic worldview and so forth, so you keep on blaming others and so forth, but you can never find the solution that way. You will never find it. You'll just go round and round like this. It is a philosophy of a dead end, philosophy of death. Almost all philosophies are of death, actually, because you're just moving round and round and round like that. Actually, most of atheistic philosophy is also useless, you know. Not that there is, you know, specific atheistic, but, you know, today's general idea of atheistic, you know, philosophy in some sense. That is pretty broad there, but still it is useless, because it's useless just to say that, oh yeah, we're atheists, we don't believe in this. You keep on going with arguments and stuff like that, or having that as entertainment. But if you're not creating anything, creating a family, for example, it doesn't have to be a family, but at the very least creating things for humanity, for others. So you see, or helping others. So either the second purpose principle or the third purpose principle, helping others through a medium. At the very least that. So even, for example, like Kafka or Nikola Tesla, he's a very good example. He never had a woman. Well, he wasn't married ever. He died like 86 years old. He focused everything on, you know, his work, his legacy, and he is immortal through that. But you see, and there was a lot of meaning for him directly, but also indirectly for all of us. So he gave a lot of meaning to the world. So you see, his life, that is a true meaningful life. You see, that's an example of a meaningful life. There you have it. That's an example. You see, we have all these role models, all these examples. They are the examples. Most of the people you're watching are the examples. So, but not all of them, and a lot of them will lead you astray. And, well, most of them will lead you astray, because they've been there for so long, all these philosophies, all these religions, all these thoughts. You got to go after the people who go against all of mainstream, and also the contrarians in a lot of ways. So you got to move beyond. You got to move beyond. And that's how we find ourselves. That's how you find your individuality. And you find your individuality not by being in the club of MGTOW, not in the club of Buddhist monks, or monks in general, or, you know, Christian monks, or whatever it is. This is all the wrong way. All of it is the wrong life. And my principles give you the structure for the life, but it will never give you, it's not a dogma, so you will have to design your own life, but you can use the tools, of course. That's the whole purpose there. You use the tools to work on your legacy, work on yourself and all of that. So that's that. So I hope I went into why your life is more than just collecting things. Collecting things means, you're just consuming Netflix, or you keep on consuming YouTube and all these things. Instagram, keep on scrolling, or you're wasting 6 hours. And when people say, this is one of my pet peeves, by the way, when people say, I don't have time for this, but you have time to waste like 6 hours on some game. I don't know which one is the new, like PUBG or whatever it's called now. The latest games or latest movie. What was that with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga? Shallow? No, the song was called Shallow. See, I'm a cinephile. I mean, I know, I've seen like 5,000 movies, but in my recent life now, I've moved away from it. I'm building my own. And that is what you have to ultimately do here. You gotta build your own. So you gotta leave these. So, you see, I wanna be this generator of leaving everything else alone, behind, and start creating your own. Not behind totally, you create your own. That is the purpose here. That is the purpose. So, but there are many purposes, but that is one of the deeper purposes. So, that is that. Now I will eat because I fasted for like over 23. Actually, I think it's 24 hours. So, anyway, I will have a lot of protein now and fruits. All right, so I will see you perhaps tomorrow. I will see you tomorrow. I always see you tomorrow. All right, good luck. Listen to my words. Take them to heart. And keep on telling yourself mottos like, keep telling yourself, don't be lazy. Or even better, you want that body, you keep on working to get that body. I know that you want to have a great body. We all want to be in great shape. So you just listen to those higher desires, you leave those lower desires, watching all these movies, playing all these games, or even, it can be anything, but all of your addictions, you have got to remove them. And candy or chocolate or chips. Instead of the chips, that's the lower desire, the temporary short-term thing. But you always want to move long-term. Long-term is the key here. Long-term is always the key. Because things change in the now, but long-term, there are universal things in the long-term. I've studied very carefully the greats. I've been obsessed with the greats as long as I've been obsessed with meaning of life, because of immortality and all of that. And they all have the same. They all have the same trait. They always, sometimes they make a comment of their own contemporary time, like Nietzsche. But the thing that lasts and what is best is like Zarathustra. That spoke Zarathustra. It always works. It will work. It worked at his time. It will work now, and it will work in 1,000 years and longer. So that is true meaning, That is how you keep being immortal. And you want to be immortal because your life, you don't want to die. All right. So our life, we don't want to die because we all know that death is meaningless. Within ourselves, we all know that death is meaningless. So we don't want to die. There is nothing wrong with the fear of death in that sense, because you want to continue the species, you want to continue giving meaning to the species. You see, we have these two deep purposes or meanings in life. So you see, perhaps there are two meanings there. So that is that. I've given you so much now, and I gotta give myself some food. I will see you tomorrow.